Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. Today we'll have Colin Farnan with Spinal Cord Injury Saskatchewan, as well as Bob Corral representing the TCU Place and the 50th anniversary of that facility. As always, we'd like to connect with you.
Tweet us at Shaw TV Saskatoon. Follow us on Facebook. Check out Shaw TV Saskatoon on YouTube to watch past episodes, or email shawtv10@shaw.ca with any future guest or topic suggestions.
Spinal Cord Injury Saskatchewan has been around for a long time. Colin Farnan is here to give us a little bit more insight into what they're doing today and where they've come from and what the future holds. Colin, thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Randy.
Let's talk a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the organization.
Well, myself, I actually been living with a physical disability for close to 30 years now. I have a prosthetic leg, amputee, above the knee. I've done a lot of, I've sat on the other side of the table with disability of finding work and just figuring out navigating the disability services, which is quite a maze out there. And when I turned around about 40, I thought, hey, maybe I could give back to this. And so I was starting to look for work in this field, and a job came up at Spinal Cord Injury Saskatchewan.
So the organization was called something else.
It was
before.
called Canadian Paraplegic Association originally, and that organization's been around for 50 years. So now it's, I think, 53 years old or 54 years old. And in the 50th anniversary, they decided to change the name to Spinal Cord Injury Saskatchewan, and it's a national organization. So there's Spinal Cord Injury Canada, Manitoba, Ontario. They changed the name to be more inclusive because paraplegic didn't really fall under a lot of even just a spinal cord injury. And we do work with all the different physical disabilities through amputee, MS, spina bifida, stroke, like anything that kind of has a mobility disability. So they changed the name because with technology and advancements in health and stuff, like quadriplegics and stuff you only work with paraplegics because quadriplegics and stuff, nobody lived past a few years. So now people are living like into their 80s with physical disabilities that never really happened before.
So it would help with the quality of life, I would imagine, from children to people that might have had an accident.
Yes.
So would that be something that's led by the physician, or does your organization kind of network with
We come into play after you're out of the hospital. We'll do meet and greets and stuff like that. Like with new injuries, we'll go into the hospital if we're invited. If someone would like to meet on a peer support. But a lot of the services that we'll provide will happen after you're out of the hospital, because once you're out, there's not a lot of, like with rehabilitation, physio, we'll help with education supports. As I said before, just navigating this huge maze of all the different organizations that provide this and who provides that. Scholarship programs, we have supports with education and employment through like workplace accommodation, accessibility supports, things like that.
So an employer can contact your office, or
they can, yeah. We
Yeah.
can come in and kind of do an accessibility consultation with a business if they're looking to hire someone in a chair or someone that has mobility issues. A lot of it is pretty common sense. It might just be like moving a desk around the other way. Some of it, like the reality is there. Sometimes it's just not feasible. There are some grants available. We do have a bit of funding to help with certain accommodations or adapting your workplace. And there's some federal grants too, with Enabling Access grant with the federal government. That is some of the bigger projects. Like they'll work with, like there's a grant out there right now that's with mid-sized projects between $300,000 and $1 million projects to help with building infrastructure and stuff like that.
And for someone to find out about that, would they just get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of us.
If you're
we
in the hospital, or how does that happen?
Well, you would get a hold of us, and you could go onto our website, www.scisask.ca. You can call us as well, 306-652. I can't, 964,
Get up on the screen.
yeah, 9644.
Yep.
And you can call us with that. And like I said, we do do meet and greets and stuff at City Hospital. There's a few other programs that we connect with new injuries. And yeah, it's kind of.
When you see someone maybe at your initial meeting, someone who may have had an injury, is there a sense of gratification watching them progress and knowing that you've had, some input and ability to help nurture them through whatever it was that they started with?
I think it would depend on the individual. I think one of the things is that if you're in a new injury, the last thing you want someone to come into your hospital room and talk to them in employment or going to school or things like that. So you have to be very careful about where you're going and where they are on their stages of recovery. So we're trained in that. So we know how to talk with different people and where they are in their recovery process. So you wouldn't be talking to someone about getting a job if they're still lying in their hospital bed, right?
It would be bad enough to hear the news of whatever.
Exactly. So a lot of it can be baby steps for some people. It's a slow process, but a lot of people it's quick. Like they might be right away looking for getting back into the workforce, or if they're raising a family or doing whatever, or if they're not insured through an accident, they need to get back to work and providing for their family. So everyone's individual, no matter how you're working with someone. It's person first. So it's not, it doesn't work. One thing works with one person, it might not work for the other, yeah.
So tell us a bit about your travels around Saskatchewan. You've been everywhere.
Yeah, right now we're working on a project through the Opportunities Fund, which is a fund through the federal government that supports people with disability. And they focus a lot on awareness and kind of breaking down the myths around disability. And it's usually around employment and finding like a career, different things like that, and about accessibility. So we have a project called Good Access, Good Business, and it's a lot about the return on disability. So taking out the sympathy kind of thing out of disability and putting like a monetary on it. So the return on disability is if you're running a business and you're not accessible, you're missing out on a huge amount of income that could be coming into your business. So if you don't have a ramp, an example, a coffee shop, two coffee shops beside each other, one's accessible and the other one's not, well, people don't live in a bubble that have a disability. So if they have friends and family and different things, and they're going to go to the place that's accessible. So that's kind of just a simplified version of the return on disability. So yeah.
If you have business owners that want to do that type of thing, do you have some models that you can refer to and maybe guide them not only for employees, but I would imagine if customers are coming through, what they would look for? Myself, without having a physical disability, it'd be hard to know what's needed.
Exactly, and I guess that's where we could come in with helping with accessibility consultation, right? So even like just if you're hiring someone and you're not exactly sure what you need to do, we would come in and say, okay, well, we can help you with this. Like I said, every business and every person, the accessibility thing is individual. It's never one size fits all. So to just have a blanket like, well, this will work, it might not for one business and what might not for another, right? So, yeah.
Do you see any opportunities on the horizon? I kind of been through the materials that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other linkages and partnerships that people can look to with your organization? In other words, if I, as an employer, would like to maybe do something for summer students, is there opportunities to network with you?
We usually do have summer students. I'm not sure yet if we have them this year. Yeah. And so, yes, every year we have, like last year we had summer students that worked on accessibility projects. And if we do have them this year, we probably do something like that as well. Maybe doing an accessibility database, finding out the places that are accessible. Housing is a really big issue in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, or probably all of Canada, for accessible housing. So that's a huge, huge thing that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Are you speaking in terms of if I had an injury and retrofitting my existing house?
Retrofitting your house, or because there's depending on income base, if there's any funding for you, because there's a cutoff, and if you're looking to rent something, there's not a lot of stuff available out there. There's some organizations that are doing some work on it, but with the building codes and stuff like that, like an apartment building, you only need to have everyone does the minimum right now. We want everyone to do the maximum. It's not there yet. So and that's where that return on disability comes in, is because you got to sell the idea to developers and all these people. If you make these places accessible for all, universal design, it will work for everyone. It's good business.
And I guess it would create an elevated standard, just in terms of looking at new builds and renovating older buildings. I would imagine there has to be some conflict in terms of trying to retrofit something that's not really
right.
possible.
As I said, there's a reality on what certain businesses or buildings can actually be financially. It's cost effective, and really there isn't a huge amount of money to. Like, I don't know who's going to when. There is legislation coming in from the federal government. Ontario is already bringing by 2020, and they're following the American Disability Act, the ADA. So the legislation is going to be coming in, and they're going to be starting to fine businesses that don't follow accessibility codes. And a lot of those loopholes to get out of those codes are going to disappear. I don't know who's going to be paying for that at the end of the day, because it's quite expensive, very expensive.
I think in terms of what you just mentioned about the return on disability and having that accessible for more people translates into a better bottom line, I think, for everyone, both socially and economically. But I want to thank you with the Spinal Cord Injury Saskatchewan and the work that you're doing.
Sure.
And maybe we'll get you back here in a little while and see some of the progress you're making.
Can I speak on one more thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of what we do in our organization is on top of our education and sports, is that we do host community events and social events. So we do have a cabaret coming up on May 3rd to kind of bring into spring, the Roll into Spring Rock Cabaret with a CCR tribute band. So if you would like to help support spinal cord injury, we're going to be hosting that.
Watch for that.
At the Cosmo Senior Center on Broadway. Yeah.
We will be there.
Yes.
Colin, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.